Hello, dear friends and family on Facebook. I don't know if I'll decide to upload this to YouTube. If you want to see more of me and a little about my travels and my life, you can check out my YouTube channel at TIGR7170. But I'm making this video because I'm at the office of the nursing home where I spend some time every once in a great while. And in looking at the news feed just now, I see the news on the Pussy Riot to appear on season 3 of Kevin Spacey's Netflix show, The House of Cards. So my brother and I watched Netflix, and there's a lot of great shows on there. I personally like Lilyhammer because it's about an expat, an American expat, and some adventures in his life outside of the USA as he spends time in Norway. So it's a really funny program. So it's really interesting to see that Pussy Riot will appear on season 3 of Kevin Spacey's next Netflix show, The House of Cards. And thank you to Richard Garagosian, I hope I said that name correctly, from Armenia, for sharing that on Facebook. And, you know, it's interesting because I wrote that this is one of the Pussy Riot members, Adzeda Telekonnikova. I don't know if I said her last name right. I know what it means. But she comes from a rural area of Russia. She was educated in St. Petersburg, and she spent some time in prison in Russia. And fortunately for her and the other member of Pussy Riot, Maria, they were given amnesty and released early from, I think it was a 2-year sentence or so, in pretty harsh conditions. So they visited to the United States, and it was a pretty grave concern during the time that they were incarcerated. There was some serious human rights issues that they were writing about, and I think she almost, talking about Nadia, almost reached a point of where she nearly died. So it was a question at the time as to whether she would even survive the ordeal. In fact, we had those of us that were following her were questioning whether she was indeed alive at all, and it was making international news. And a lot of international human rights groups were following her dilemma very closely at the time. So it's a pleasure to get this news and to see that she's coming on to Netflix. It's very popular here in the United States. I have had in the past, when I've been in the United States for a long period of time, I had a membership in Netflix. My brother, as I said, subscribes to it now. We see an incredible amount of movies through Netflix. So that's a nice one to see. In fact, I'll show it here on Facebook. Here's where I got this. And that's how I got this news. So when I was in Russia, I have a video where there was a girl that was passed out at the market bazaar. She had, according to my fiance there at the time, we're not together now, but at the time she explained to me that she was probably famished, and it wasn't unusual for she herself had passed out in the streets and the concrete, and her doctor had told her that it could be because she was famished, just simply not enough to eat. And she had told me that there was a few people there in her city. It's a small city in Russia, military city, a nice city really. It was nice in some ways. It was very pleasant to visit for me, but there just wasn't a lot to eat for some people that simply had no sources of income. It wasn't enough, and it wasn't unusual for her to maybe have chicken. It was a good month if she could have chicken in her borscht twice a month. Otherwise, they couldn't afford the meat. So This is pretty extreme poverty. Now, this is 2009 is when this took place. So I'm just reminded about some of the harsh conditions in life. And this is not Moscow. This is not St. Petersburg. And I didn't stay like a tourist in some fancy hotel, although I did for a couple of days. No problem. But I actually lived in the rural south of Russia. It's Russia's south, actually, right on the Kuban River, actually, for a period of 3 months, and then again for another month and a half. So I was in what I would say is real Russia, and had a very nice Russian family that I was visiting with at that time, and that would be my ex-fiance's family there. So there was this situation where Elena and I went to the market, and this girl was just absolutely passed out. And again, she was saying, well, she's probably simply had not enough to eat. They probably came here and wanted to buy some food, and apparently that's probably when she passed out. She just couldn't wait any longer, and it had happened to her. So, and there was other instances where she had shown me, I had met some of her friends or saw some people there in the city who just they weren't they just didn't get enough to eat. So that was the Russia that in what I call real Russia that I was accustomed to, that I come to know. So it was similar in Ukraine. When I was in Ukraine in 2004 and 2005, I was there during the Orange Revolution. And I got there before that time. I actually got there in about April 5th, first time, of 2004. And I was there until about close to August of 2005. So I was there during the beginning and throughout the end, and some months after the Orange Revolution. But I would meet with an American who had a business card with the U.S. Embassy's embossed seal on it, and also his mortgage and finance business, which was based deep. His work was deep in Siberia, and he would come over to Kiev to visit the embassy every 3 or 4 months, and we'd spend some time together on his visits over to Kiev. And he had explained to me that the official numbers, there was 2 sets of numbers on the average income throughout the Ukraine at the time, and this again is back in 2004 and 2005. And this is outside of Kiev or Dnipropetrovsk, and so that means unless you were in a large city like Kiev, where the average income monthly, if you were in a professional management position, you might earn $400 to $500 a month. Or maybe you would get lucky if you had a good job and earn $200 or $300 a month, maybe $100 to $200 a month. But if you were outside of the capital city, the international city of Kiev, Ukraine, my beautiful Kiev, as we'd say, or if you were outside of Dnipropetrovsk, the average income, again, according to whatever set of statistics you would accept or believe, I think there was 2 different ones quoted. One was $50 a month was the average income. That's $50 US a month. Or another set of statistics suggested it was $35 a month income. So, and that's if you were in that 60% that was lucky enough to find or have employment. So that's life at that time in the Ukraine. And you were lucky if you didn't get stopped in the street, especially if you spoke English or appeared to be or carried a foreign passport, especially from a Western English-speaking country like Great Britain, Canada, or the USA. You were lucky. In fact, you were very lucky if you didn't get stopped and asked for money or a present for police, so to speak, and it was not at all unusual. In fact, if you go to the U.S. State Department's travel advisory site on the Ukraine, and the safety and security issues for the Ukraine, you will see that they have talked about that some U.S. citizens there have reported being robbed by those who are dressed like or in police uniform. Don't take my word for it. You can look it up yourself. But I was there for 13 months, and I know what extreme poverty looks like. Most Americans never, and I mean that, never will. Because almost every American has electricity, they have hot water, and they eat. Most do. But in Ukraine, at that time, and of course, unfortunately now, maybe perhaps due to an additional set of circumstances, that's not always the situation. So, I posted the video that I have had on YouTube for years of my time in Russia, and a story about how that I used a technique on this Russian girl who was famished and passed out at the bazaar, at the market. And my ex-fiance was very familiar with these techniques and energy work, I like to call it. If you will visit to Sedona, Arizona, there was a great healer out there, a massage or hands-on healer who had trained in the Tibetan black hat monk techniques of moving energy and working with the massage and things like that, and several other schools of energy work, hands-on energy work. And in essence, that's what the circulation of the body of light exercises from Donald Michael Craig's book, Modern Magic, 11 Lessons, or now it's 12. He's got a newer edition, Lessons in the High Magical Arts. This is a way to move energy. And you can not only do it by touch, you can do it remotely as well. So anyway, I made a video about that and how we applied that technique in that circumstance. And she did come to just right after that. So it was quite a coincidence, if you will, for those that are skeptical about such things. For those of us that are experienced with such things, you know the story. So, and the possibilities in that. So in any case, I am reminded of just how difficult life often was and is to this very day for people in that part of the world. So in any case, I enjoyed my stay there, and I treasure the visits that I've had to those countries in that part of the world. But it is quite a different life than that of those in some other countries. So I'll post this to Facebook and just say that I think that's interesting news. It's worthy for me to comment on in a video. I'm at the time and place to do it. I'm on the Nexus 7, the Asus Nexus 7 Google tablet, the internet tablet, so it'll be very easy for me to upload this, I hope. But and to make the video. I've got a Sony Bloggy. In fact, I got a waterproof Sony Bloggy this week, so if we need to go underwater or in the rain, I can do that with this particular video device. But the one I've got in my hand right now is, I like it because I don't have to plug anything in. I can just, tap the off button and then upload it. Whereas the other devices, I'll have to get the USB out and plug it in. But in any case, back to the original topic. I think there was an American on Vice News who is actually ethnically Ukrainian, although he has served in a military and is an American citizen. And you can find him with Simon Ostrowski. I'm not sure if I said his name right because I don't have his name in front of me. But Simon does a lot of reporting from the Ukraine right now, and he's an American. And this guy who's an American citizen that went and claimed his Ukrainian citizenship is now fighting against the separatists in Ukraine. He's fighting for the Ukraine's sovereignty, I guess. But you'd have to see his interview and see what he says. He talks about the corruption, and that's what the people are really fighting against, is this corrupt system that he believes, in his words, will never be allowed to stay. It won't work. He just says simply it can't work. They are beyond that now. And the people have woke up. Now, I can tell you this. I've got a good friend that I met in Ukraine. I've known from Kiev way back. He was testing and burning, so to speak, testing in Android phone devices, which are now things like Samsung's Galaxy S4 or even the Apple iPhone. He was testing those devices live. I saw him. I was there. I was with him for the companies that were developing that technology from Kiev, Ukraine, back in 2004. He's incredibly clever, and he's now in the United States. But he still got family in Ukraine, and he still holds his Ukrainian citizenship. And I've also got a few friends that are in Ukraine now that I keep in touch with that are in the center of Ukraine that have relatives in Donetsk. I have friends in Kiev, of course, still after being there for 13 months, and also through Facebook. I've got a number of friends over there, and they tell me what's going on, and they tell me about their what's happening in the Donetsk and about the things that the relatives are seeing that are very pro-Russian, even though that they themselves are very pro-Ukraine, actually. So I hear about these things, but I know from experience, and I know in talking to my one friend in particular, that they are sick of the corruption. Now, not to say that the EU association agreement wasn't harsh, or they might have gotten not a great deal by the bankers behind that deal. All that I don't know. I've read about that. I don't have the details on that, but I do know that the media, the many journalists in America that are writing and saying things about, kind of tolerant of Russia's, and I speak about the Kremlin and Putin. They're kind of tolerant of those positions, or, they speak like, maybe they aren't right in their position. The people that are struggling for their independence and their sovereignty and things like that. All I can say is go live there. I invite them. Go. Try it and then talk about it. Try it and talk about how life is on $35 a month or $50 a month if you're within that 60% that were lucky enough to have a form of income or maybe a source of employment. Go try it. Go try living in a country where you can be stopped on the street by the police, ask for money, and you really maybe, if you're Ukrainian, you may not feel you have a choice other than to pay to give it up. One of the first things that Yushchenko did right in the Orange Revolution, after the Orange Revolution was successful, he took power. One of the first things he did was to eliminate an entire traffic division of police in Kiev, because the cops in that traffic division were stopping young mothers driving their children to school, and they were asking for their lunch money. The only money that they would have on them that day in their pocket was the money that would provide their children enough to eat at school. And so one of the first steps he did was to just simply eliminate that entire traffic division, because he was eliminating, or attempting to eliminate, corruption. So we can hear all the stories about all these other realities, or the EU association agreement, or Putin, and all these other things like that. But what I hear from the Ukrainians, they tell me they want to be finished with the corrupt system. And if they have Russia come and take over, or to remain as a great influence over their country, until Russia also is free from this system, this almost bribe culture, if you will, which we know is historical. At least the last 100 years or so, it's common. It's common knowledge. You come to Russia, you know that it's not unusual, it's not uncommon to deal with what I call the bribe culture. It's just welcome to Russia. It's Russia. And the Ukrainians the majority of Ukrainians that I know, that I've talked to, have said that they don't want that for their children. They don't want that for their present. They don't want that for their future. And that I can see and understood clearly when the American who claimed back his Ukrainian citizenship to fight or to serve in a position with the Kiev government currently in Ukraine, who is on Vice News being interviewed by Simon Ostrowski. I don't know if I've said his last name again, because again, I don't have it pulled up here in front of me, but it's on Vice News. And when he talked about that, they said that they're not going to tolerate the corrupt government they have over there anymore. won't work. I think that he was telling the truth because that's what I hear. That's what I hear from Ukrainian friends. So, but I read certain authors on the internet that um, are pro-Russian. I see guys like Steven Seagal doing some stupid stuff out there to promote his friendship with Putin and things like that. And I'm thinking, I wonder if Seagal has really lived among the people in Russia or Ukraine as I have. And I wonder if Seagal would like to have a gun from one of the Ukrainian police put up to his head, and what it feels like to be robbed of every bit of money, cash that you've got on you, or maybe to be taken to an ATM and ask for $1,500, like has happened to some expat friends there, for nothing. That's the system that Seagal is standing up for when he says that he's for the Russian side in this, because we all know this is the reality. And what fools, what idiots, if they have a choice of where the future of their country is headed. Well, who would choose that for the future of their country? And that's exactly as simple as it gets. They're tired of the corruption. And we can say that there's corruption in many different countries and many different cultures. I accept that. I understand that. I may not accept it, but I accept it as that's life on planet Earth at this time. But how many places can you go? And it's on the street level as well. And it's affecting so many people that are famished. And they're tired of the poverty, the mass poverty, and they're tired of being famished. And I think it's really that simple. Really it is. And that's what I hear from my Ukrainian friends. And having lived in Ukraine, having been in Russia 3 months, and then another time for 45 days, and then another time for a week back in Kislovodsk in May of 2005, after being among the people in the real life, also in Georgia for almost 5 years, over the last 10. And Georgia's really come a long ways in getting away from that. They are a light of hope in the region. And the Ukrainians have been watching what's happening there, and they've been looking to see and watching carefully. And they're seeing some development and some progress, and they want it for them. They want it for themselves. They want it for their children. They want it for their loved ones. So it is, it's quite simple. But when I see these idiots in the media, and not all of them, but there's some people that are telling the truth, but there's a lot of people that have no idea what life is like. They should go see it. They should go live it. What it's like to be stopped on the street, anywhere, anytime, and just simply have your money taken from you. And you don't have to believe me. And everybody that's Russian, Ukrainian, they know what I'm saying is true. But these Americans over here, they have no idea. And a lot of them are the idiots that are writing these articles and these news pieces out there critical of U.S. involvement or U.S. help to Ukraine and things like that, because they have no idea. They just whooshed right over their head. They don't have, but they're writing articles and they're saying things very critical, like, this is not good, or we shouldn't be involved. And thinking, well, they've asked for our help. Did you know? They're asking, we should say, no, you're on your own, man. Sorry about that. Hey, deal with it yourself. That's what I see. They have no idea what it's like to be stopped and asked for money for no reason. Just, hi, how are you? Papers, please. Present for police? Yeah, imagine that. And then imagine where maybe 1% or 2% or whatever it is of the population has billions of dollars. And the rest of you are earning $35, maybe $50 a month. And if you're in the cities, maybe you're earning, $200, $300 a month or something like that. That's just, that's the way it has been. That's the way it is. I don't have the exact figures now, but you can be sure that it's a system that the people are tired of. And that's what's happening over there. It's a system that they don't want the corruption. So anyway, it's pretty simple to see. And if you just spend time there, you'll understand it as the sky is blue. And the sun will get up and shine every day. You understand that that's the way it is. And unless something changes, that's the way it will be. So I think they're trying to bring some change in there. And the part of the system that is deeply entrenched in that kind of corruption, I think that part of the system is they don't want to see. They don't want to see that go away, because that's how some of those people are surviving, is because of the system that's in place. And I think that Ukraine has said, you know what, we want change. And then that's where all this has come from. We can talk about the EU provoking it. We can talk about that the EU came in and provoked this thing. And I have no interest myself in being a part of the EU. I'm not a big fan of the EU. I don't mind a visit there, but I have absolutely no interest in living in the EU whatsoever, other than a short time. That's not my interest. But at the same time, again, anybody that would point that out, I would just say to them, okay, yeah, that might be true, but go live under the system. And then you can talk negatively and from experience about how that life is under such extreme, grave poverty and daily corruption, street level, frequent corruption. Well, it's enough for me, so I just thought I would mention that. It's a funny thing. I've told the story before, but you go to Russia and they'll say, I'm from the United States of America, and never in all my life, ever, not one single time have myself or any of my friends ever said that the police have stopped me and asked for money. It's never happened. And the Russians laughing, sincerely laughing, like, ha ha ha, that can't be true. You're joking. No, I'm American. It's normal. We don't have this problem of police stopping people on the street, and never have in all my life, and demanding money. It doesn't happen. It's not, maybe it would happen, but if it did, it would be so rare and unheard of. It was just not, it's never happened to me or anybody that I know. And the Russian couldn't understand it. They thought I was telling fairy tales and sincere laughter. And it's like, no, really, there's a life possible where you can go to the government and get your driver's license or get other services or documents that you need and not have to bribe somebody, not have to pay extra money. And you can live a life where you're not stopped in the street and demanded money from, extorted or asked for a bribe for nothing, actually, just because you're walking down the street and maybe that you speak English or maybe you look like you have some extra money that the police can ask for. So the Russian couldn't understand it. They thought it was the biggest joke. Now, when you're starving, when you're famished, you see, it's a circle. Well, I've said enough. So when I see these idiots out here writing these articles and they're so critical about what's going on in Ukraine, I don't see anybody really talking about the real story and about how it all really works and how simple it really is. Well, anyway, nice article here about Pussy Riot to appear on season 3 of Kevin Spacey's Netflix show House of Cards. that'll be cool. I'll be looking forward to seeing that because she's got one hell of a story as a rights activist in Russia, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hello from the great American Midwest, and see you later. Coming from Missouri. And today, just to date it, August 11, 2014. Have a great day, everyone.